Hi everyone, welcome to Chessboard Baseball. I am APO and I'm essentially introducing a new way of how to evaluate players, how to evaluate baseball statistics and everything like that. And I'm starting with a small sample size, so I'm evaluating all Dodgers games for this 2026 MLB season, and I'm going to be displaying and analyzing players according to Chessboard Baseball scores. Now, I will explain a little bit more about what that is, but essentially it is a combination of three factors. So it's going to be role expectation. So each player on the Dodgers or whatever team that I decide to analyze will have a role. And those roles are derived from the game of chess. So we have queens, rooks, bishops, knights, and pawns. And only a small amount of queens, only a few amount of rooks, a bunch of knights and bishops, and some pawns. And then according to that role expectation, there's going to be a value assigned to one of those players. That is just something that we do as we watch games. We do put more weight on the plate appearances of certain players. When Shohei Ohtani comes to hit, there's just a different level of expectation that we have, even as fans, and of course, as I'm sure as the organization, the managers, even the players themselves, as to the production expected from that at bat. And if you compare an at bat by Ohtani to an at bat by, I don't know, Alex Freeland, well, there is a different level of expectation. And then what I do is I essentially assign a value to that. For the queen, and this is the same in chess, the the piece of the queen has a value of 9 points. And then the rooks have a value of 5 points, knights and bishops a value of 3 points, and the value of a pawn 1 point. And I will, more about this will come to light as far as what that all entails. But then one part is role expectation, as I said. Another part is process quality. So then the at bats, right? Are players swinging at bad pitches? Are making contact on the ball on the pitches that are in the strike zone or outside the strike zone? So all of that gets combined for the comprehensive score, and then of course, at the end, results. So we have role expectation plus process quality plus results, and that's going to equal that chessboard baseball score. All I do is I like to separate the players into tiers only so that we're not evaluating any players unfairly, right? I don't want to compare Freeland to Ohtani numbers to numbers, right? So therefore I create tiers where I compare similar players to Freeland, similar players to Andy Pajes, similar players like Will Smith. These are all different tiers of players, whether we want to admit it or not, but every team has those. And I think it's just a fair way to approach this. We've had right now, so this is right after the 12th game, the Dodgers lost against the Blue Jays. This is just right after that game concluded. So we're going to be evaluating the first 12 games of the Dodgers according to Chessboard Baseball. There is a rubric. There are explanations to all of this. I will be updating the website, so if you're interested about keeping up to date, real time with the scores, with Chessboard Baseball scores, especially with the Dodgers, then I'll leave the link to the website here. Is www.chessboardbasketball.com. I know we're talking about baseball, but I initially started this as a basketball project, and I'm still kind of working on that, but now I've kind of moved into baseball, and I just still have the same website, chessboardbasketball.com. But right there, as soon as you go in there, you're gonna see immediately on the homepage at least the document where I'm working on the Dodgers roster. So without further ado, let's start with just the general numbers, and then we're going to get deeper into the at-bats as well. Here you can see the 2026 Dodgers roster, and then you have the Chessboard Baseball. Here's the roles that are assigned to each player. So as you see, Freddie, Freeman, and Shohei Ohtani are on a tier on their own. the way that I approach this is that no team, I don't care how many great players a team has, no team will have more than 2 queens. And typically it it turns out that way, right? Right now, I assign the queen status to players who've maybe their career OPS is 900 or above. And as you can see, Freddie Freeman is career almost 900, so it is definitely justified for him to have a queen status. And not only that, but his highest OPS season ever even uh dwarfs Otani's highest OPS season ever, which was 1.102, which is insane for Freddie Freeman. So Freeman and Otani are no doubt two queens. And as of right now, so Freddie Freeman has had 54 plate appearances. Shohei Ohtani has had 59 plate appearances, although they've really been featured in every game, so they haven't rested any of the games. But of course, with Ohtani hitting leadoff and Freeman typically hitting fourth or fifth in some games, then Freeman will not match the at bats that Ohtani typically gets on a game-to-game basis. So 5 more at bats, and as you can see, uh, Freeman has a highest chessboard baseball score by 1 point. And even though it appears that Ohtani has a higher OPS than, and not it appears, actually, currently Shohei Ohtani has a higher OPS than Freddie Freeman, probably a higher average. Right now, I'm only tracking the OPS, but I believe at this point, average may be similar around there, like maybe 270 for both or 260 for one or the other. But the reason, so if we're talking about process quality, meaning at bats, pitches that players see, whether they swing at pitches that are in the strike zone, Freddie Freeman is just, I mean, this is subjective, but Freddie Freeman is more of a pure hitter than Shohei Ohtani is. Shohei Ohtani is more explosive. He'll give you more home runs, but he's also susceptible to pretty bad at bats, meaning that he'll swing at 3 pitches outside the strike zone in any given at bat. I think there was one at bat today where he swung at 2 bad pitches and then he struck out looking. So meaning that there are times where he can't recognize the strike zone very well. I mean, a great hitter. Now we can't, as far as who's better. I mean, I don't know. I'll take Ohtani, right? Any given time. I'm not trying to argue that, but the pure hitter factor, as far as like, who puts the ball in play more often, you can look at the numbers. Freddie Freeman strikes out at a much less than Shohei Ohtani. So those numbers, and I think for this system, it could favor Freeman, but I don't know. Again, this is early. I think they both have about the similar stats so far as home runs. But by the end of the season, we'll know that Shohei Ohtani will probably separate himself. He could hit 30 more home runs than Freeman, and this number will change because it does reward, big impact as well. It rewards process, but also impact, and that's the beauty of the system, in my opinion. But so far this season, 12 games in, Freddie Freeman is 1 full point ahead. It's pretty much 1 full point ahead of Shohei Ohtani, and I can show you why. So here we go with Freeman and Ohtani, and as you can see, the first 16 were fine for both, right? They were pretty good. Ohtani actually was killing it early. They both had an outstanding score, meaning that they had a plate appearance of 28 points, and Freddie Freeman had a plate appearance of 38 points. Outstanding. They were great. But if we go down, so after the 16th plate appearance, now we really see how Ohtani can quickly put together a bunch of bad plate appearances, and that's what this is, right? And the -3, the 3, 2, and 2, and as you can see, Freddie Freeman has had none so far, right? Like nothing close to the type of really bad at bats that Ohtani tends to get. Again, another bad one, and you can see Freeman nothing yet, nothing bad. It's just Freeman is a little bit more consistent in that aspect of, like I said, swinging at strikes that are actually in the zone. But they've both been doing great. You just see a lot more bad on Ohtani than you see on Freddie Freeman as far as the overall score. So each plate appearance is graded, whether it is outstanding. So the tiers for each plate appearance is outstanding, great, good, marginal, bad, or horrendous. And we just had today the first horrendous at bat of the season for a Dodger, and that was Andy Pages, who struck out on 3 pitches that were all 3 outside the strike zone. And it was pretty bad. So he had a horrendous. Andy Pages has been killing it this season, but he definitely had a really, really bad. The worst at bat for the Dodgers this season went to Pages, and we can show that a little bit later in this video as well. But yes, I mean, if we count the bad plate appearances that Shohei Ohtani has had, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, compared to Freeman's 1, 2, right? So that you can start to see how the averages, because this number, or the Chessboard Baseball score number, it just averages out each score for each plate appearance. So he just averages the total plate appearances, and this is what the number that we see. So even though Ohtani probably kills it more than Freeman does, his plate appearance, sometimes some of his plate appearances are really, really bad compared to Freeman's, and that's where we see that what we see there. So as we move to, and I expect, real quick, I expect that this number, that Ohtani will end up beating Freeman in chessboard baseball score, if we are to follow the historic trend and the type of numbers that Ohtani tends to put up, regardless of his really bad plate appearances. I believe his score will still be higher. It's just early in the season, and he hasn't quite gotten, hasn't been able to separate himself from the rest. So if we get into the Rooks, so if we look at the Rooks, we have 4 Rooks on the Dodgers, and that is essentially based on a career OPS, and you can see it here. That is between 780 or 899. And I mean, it doesn't have to be career, but if a player has been putting up those type of numbers over the last, I don't know, consistently over the last 2 or 3 years, then they may come up to a Rook level. But as so it happens that the Dodgers do have 4 players with a career over 800 OPS. Now they do have Teoscar Hernandez, who is barely there in the 780 or 800, but the problem is he has, over the last 3 seasons, he has not quite been up there. Now his highest OPS is 919, which is respectable, but there's also a limit on the Rooks that we can have. If you see down here, we can have only a max of 2 queens, only a max of 4 Rooks. Therefore, he doesn't make it. And then he fits the profile more of a knight than a bishop. And I'll get into that a little bit later as well, because they are profile. Each baseball player, according to this system, has either a knight profile or a bishop profile, and that's even true for Rooks, and that's true for queens. So Ohtani fits a knight profile, and Freddie Freeman fits a bishop profile, but I'll get into that later to kind of explain how that all works. But this is all kind of, it's like chess and baseball. That's why it's called chessboard baseball, all combined. But yes, we'll get to the knights and bishops because I compare them all the same. They just have different player profiles. But for the Rooks, so far, Will Smith is leading the pack for the Rooks according to Chessboard Baseball, and it's also considered. It's also on par with OPS. So Smith is leading in OPS over all the Rooks with 773, and he's also leading by 1 full point over Kyle Tucker when it comes to Chessboard Baseball. And so far, it's been consistent as well, where Will Smith is just more selective and also tends to swing a little bit more often to pitches within the strike zone, where Tucker has been good. I mean, I really have had no complaints with Kyle Tucker. He's showed up, he's delivered where it matters. So I can't say, I think these are good Rook numbers, but I've seen definitely that Smith and the numbers speak for themselves. for themselves. That Smith has been more selective and it's just a little bit better with plate discipline and swinging at good pitches, uh, having good quality plate appearances as well, but not that far out from Cal Tucker. And this can all change really fast too. And I'll be explaining all of that a little bit later. But Smith has had 41 plate appearances and Cal Tucker 53 plate appearances. Of course, Will Smith needs to be preserved a little bit more, being a catcher and can't be playing every day. Whereas Cal Tucker, just like Freeman and Ohtani, has played essentially every game so far. Max Muncy started strong. Right now, his OPS is at 623. He started really strong, I think, the first few games, and then he's been struggling. I mean, really, the last, I don't know, 5, 6 games, he's has struggled quite a bit. A lot of it has been bad luck. Some of it has been, yeah, he's been reaching and just having poor plate appearances. But he started strong and then kind of fizzled a little bit. But knowing Muncy, he's pretty consistent as well. I think this system will favor him, and he may end up. I don't know. I may project that he may end up a little bit higher than Tucker on Chessboard Baseball score, but we'll see. We'll see. I still think Muncy is a great it is very selective with his pitches and his plate appearances. Tends to have more quality plate appearances than Cal Tucker. That's just the sense that I'm getting, but we'll see how it continues as the season goes along. Again, 12 games, not a huge sample size. This is just a little bit of what we've gotten so far this season. And then it's been difficult to evaluate Mookie Betts because this is 32 plate appearances. He struggled a bit. That's why he's got the lowest score out of all Rooks so far, even with Muncy having a 623 OPS. But of course, having more plate appearances works in his favor. But yes, Mookie Betts has struggled quite a bit at the plate so far this year, even though his OPS is 711, which is not too bad. Um, and then if we look at their numbers, so here we have Will Smith, and you can see that Will Smith has the least bad plate appearances out of the whole bunch. So he has two bad ones, a lot of marginals, right? Like a lot of meh plate appearances. They're not too good, but not too bad. But he doesn't get these bad ones very often. Whereas you can see Cal Tucker bad all over the place. Look at that, is an insane amount. And then same thing with Muncy and Betts, right? So Muncy started really good and then just started doing really bad. So he's collected a bunch of marginal and bad plate appearances. And then Mookie Betts, same thing. So here it just shows you the consistency, right? So if we compare Will Smith to Freddie Freeman in a way, in a sense, they're the most consistent as far as like they don't have too many terrible plate appearances. And Smith, for being a Rook, it's just +5. Only having 2 bad plate appearances, that's as many as Freddie Freeman. That is insane. But as you can see, only one. So he's got one outstanding. No one else has an outstanding plate appearance. But only 1, 2, 3 great ones. Whereas Tucker has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 great plate appearances. So that just tells you the impact that Cal Tucker is going to have. It's a little bit stronger than Smith, but Smith is more, you can depend on him and rely on him a little bit more consistently than Tucker. But when Tucker delivers, it's going to be huge. And I think to a degree, same thing with Muncy and with Betts. So that is it for the Rooks so far. Will Smith leading the pack here. And now the bishop. So the bishops and knights, this is the interesting one so far this year. And I don't know, Dave Roberts is going to have some decisions to make when it comes to how to really manage these players right here, because we're still not really including Kike Hernandez or Tommy Edman into the mix. So whenever those two come in addition to what's already, what's already here, it's going to be challenging. Now, as you can see, Alex Call is, I mean, 12 plate appearances, which we can't, and of course a 1.251 OPS, which leads the team. Well, no, Dalton Russian leads the team in OPS, but for this stat right here, 13.58, that is crazy levels of insanity. And then the problem with Alex, not the problem, but the thing with Alex Call is he just does not swing at a bad pitch. He just doesn't. It's impressive to watch, really. Um, will not chase, and he'll take the walk gladly. And then when he does swing, he connects. And I think in the broadcast recently, when he had his most recent game, they said that he still hadn't had a swing and a miss the entire season. And so no swing and misses, and then he doesn't chase. It's just no. So right now he has crazy numbers, but then at the same time he doesn't play very often. So I don't know what they do with someone like Alex Call. Dude, I don't know. I really don't know. And again, for his career, I just don't know how long he's been in the league. His career OPS is 712, which is not, it's not that great, but these impact numbers have been insane so far. And of course, Andy Pages has been incredible so far this year. He's been outscoring some rooks. And this is, I mean, the way that this is designed is for bishops and knights to never outscore rooks, because there's such a with the roll expectation factor and that value, it separates, there's a significant separation between these tiers, that if you have someone like Pages outscoring someone like Betts, there's a consideration to be made whether Betts needs to be demoted to a bishop or a knight, or whether Pages needs to be promoted to a rook. Because this, if he were a rook, this would be 11 points, right? So he'd be competing with Will Smith and be higher than Kyle Tucker. But Pages has been great, but he could have been doing a lot better. The problem with Pages is just the same that we've mentioned with Ohtani, is that when he has bad at bats, they're really, really bad at bats. But when they're good ones, they're good. And the problem is, but here's the thing: even when they get hits or when they get doubles or home runs, if their process has been bad up to that point, meaning that if they were chasing pitches outside the strike zone for 2 strikes, or whether we're fouling pitches that were outside the strike zone, that will take away points away from them during that at bat. And then when they hit the home run, or they hit I don't know, they do the big impact, the score is not that big, right? So it's still a little bit lower than it should have been for the impact on the result. But this doesn't grade just result; it also grades process and role expectation. So, but Baja's numbers has been great. I mean, for as many as plate appearances that he's had, which is 48, to be at 1.112 OPS and to have secured, National League Player of the Week, Pages has been overperforming. Now, recently, he struck out all 4 times today, so that wasn't great, but nonetheless, really, really good. Kim, right? He has young Kim. I can't really pronounce his name, but Kim has been great too. He's assigned as a bishop as well, and he's almost overperforming Pages here according to Chessboard Baseball. But again, he's only had 9 plate appearances. He's got some really solid plate appearances and at bats so far. Not too much to worry about with Kim. He's been good, but yeah, only 9 plate appearances for Kim, only 12 for Call, but they've been really good so far. Now Hernandez is really interesting, especially with this 781 OPS. You would think, oh man, he should be higher, but Hernandez is the same thing, and even to a much crazier degree than Pages. because he really chases bad pitches. And I'm sure, I mean, if you're fans and if you're watching the games and if you see this consistently, Hernandez chases a ton. And even when he gets singles and when he gets his hits, doubles, whatever, a lot of times they come by him hitting pitches that were outside the strike zone. So this system just punishes people that do that consistently. And even when he gets his singles and even when he does the impact that he does, the score is just way lower than someone who follows who follows the process. For instance, an Alex Call single compared to a Teoscar Hernandez single is probably a 10-point difference because Call has probably already seen 3, 4 different pitches, probably 2 or 3 balls and some fouls that were in the strike zone. That's going to carry the score a lot higher than someone like Hernandez who's chasing and then suddenly gets a single. Just a huge difference in scores. So not every single is created equal. Not every strikeout is created equal. Um, there are different varieties of those. And yes, you breathe. We breathe a sigh of relief when we see players like Hernandez getting on base on a single because we know the tendency that it is to just chase at bad pitches. So yeah, 613 is pretty bad. That's not a really good score, but when you look at his average is looking good. When you look at his OPS, OPS is looking good, but his process is just not sound. And then we get into the knight versus bishop categories, and the bishops tend to be a lot more selective. Knights tend to not be so much. Like bishops tend to get on base a little bit more. Knights tend to have higher slugging percentage. So that's pretty much the differentiator between bishops and knights, especially for those profiles. And then Rojas has been as bad as the OPS suggests, right? He's got 24 plate appearances. Now, before we get into Miggy Rowe today, and just recently he dealt with the death of his father, which, definitely condolences to him and his family. So and for him to be on the field, to be in high spirits, to play as good as he has been on the field and everything like that, he's just an amazing guy to have on the team, regardless of what chessboard baseball score may be, regardless of what the OPS may be. Um, he's just a guy that inspires everyone else around him. Great guy, great locker room guy, and someone who'll deliver, right? It's not like, oh, he's just there carrying someone else's, um, you know, things or anything like that, or cheerleading. Like, he produces, and he definitely produces both on the field and in big moments, as we saw last year in the World Series. So I don't want to go straight into just going in on Miguel Rojas when his value is not this right here, right? Like, this is not what the Dodgers signed him. Is because he's gonna have really good numbers. The intangibles, the things that you don't see, is the stuff that he brings into that ball club, which is also really valuable. And one of the things that Andrew Freeman separates himself from a lot of other people, other general managers, is in identifying those things that add value to the team, that are not just numbers, and that people are not numbers and players are not just numbers, right? They provide other things as well of value. But yes, 24 plate appearances, um, and in par with what the OPS suggests. But then let's look at some of these numbers. So for Bishops here, Pajes started doing really good, a lot of marginal and good at bats, and a lot of good here. There was a stretch of 3 games where he was just unstoppable and rocking everything. But then the last 1, 2, 3 games, it's been, yeah, he had one great one, a lot of marginal, and then some really bad ones. And especially today with this horrendous plate appearance. And it was 3 strikes. I think he check swing all 3 of them. He was check swing 3 pitches that were clearly outside the strike zone and struck out like that. And yeah, no one else on the team has a horrendous plate appearance except Pajes, and that's a -11. So that's going to definitely affect that overall chessboard baseball score. And for Miguel Rojas, it has been mostly bad. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 bad plate appearances out of 24 that he's had. Yeah, I mean, they've mostly just no good impact coming from Miguel Rojas per se, if we were just to count the plate appearances on their own as far as their value. Now, if we look at Alex Call and even Kim to an extent, although he had some back to back really bad plate appearances, but Alex Call, this is insane. He's a bishop, same as Miguel Rojas, but only one bad plate appearance. Everything else is either, I mean, four great ones for a bishop. That's insane. That's more than Pajes, I think. One, two. No, not Pajes has one more, but still, for 12 player appearances to have that many great ones, and a lot of these great ones is walks. They're walks. Why? Because each ball is 3 points. So you have 4 walks and maybe some fouls in the zone or whatever. You're gonna have some significant separation even in the walks to everyone else. And then Kim has been really good because he's got some good ones and a great one, but also he can be bad at times. But so far he's been okay. But Alex Call, I've been super impressed by Alex Call. And then last, well, the Knights. So we already talked about Teoscar Hernandez, but again, you can see so many bad ones here as well. Then we move on to the Pawns, and the Pawns have been really good for the Dodgers. I've been super impressed. I thought that they would be much lower on the chessboard baseball score, but they've been amazing. Especially Dalton Rushing has been incredible. Look at that OPS, but again, that's only 10 plate appearances for 2, 3, 6, 7 OPS, which is insane. That's not what's the word that I'm looking for? That's not sustainable. He'll come down, but so far you can, you can, whenever Dalton Rushing is in the game instead of Will Smith, you can still say, okay, this guy's going to produce. It's not like a day off and then we're in trouble because there's no production coming out of that position. And in fact, there is production, tons of production coming out of that position. Freeland has been really good, and he's had 35 plate appearances, so he's playing consistently. Pretty much, he seems to be the everyday second baseman, and at least until maybe Tommy Edman comes in, I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but he's been good. 721 OPS and a 5 is a really solid number for a pawn, and even Espinal. So Espinal, you can see, okay, 286 OPS on 7 plate appearances, but this number, you can see it's almost as high as Freeland, only because he's been okay. Like his plate appearances are fine. You're not concerned. You're like, oh my God, this guy can't hit the ball. He's been pretty good. I mean, if we look at it here, yeah, 3 bad ones, but 3 marginal and a good one. So this is respectable, especially coming out of this role expectation for Espinal. He's been fine. I think that OPS number is not telling you the full story per se. So so far so good. So I've been impressed. I'm not concerned by anyone right now so far on the Dodgers, offensively anyway. Anyways, they've been pretty good. Of course, numbers will shift. It's early on in the season. They have a really good record, right? They're 9-3. A lot of that is because of the offense, and a lot of that is because of the production of these other guys, which, of course, we're not expecting Dalton Rushing to keep that up. We're not expecting Alex Call to keep that up. Even Andy Pajes, we're not expecting him to keep that up. But the things that will change is Ohtani will continue to get better. Tucker will continue to get better. Will Smith, Max Muncy, Mookie Betts, right? Those are the players that haven't really been themselves, but those numbers are going to come up. And I'm just curious to see how everything works out with the chessboard baseball score, in comparison to OPS and everything else. But again, different factors included here under this system than any other stat, right? And I know that there are stats out there that measure process, but they don't combine it everything and give you like a comprehensive number as far as role expectation, process quality, and results all combined into one number. I'm one who, so I'm former military, and I was a senior master sergeant in the Air Force, and I've always valued process over results because I'm of the belief that if one follows the process consistently over a long period of time, you will end up with great results. Whereas if you try to cut corners or do things, not the right way, to try to get those results, then it'll eventually catch up with you. So the value of process is one of the things that chessboard baseball gets after. It introduces a bunch of concepts from the game of chess. And as we continue to do these videos, I'll continue to explain more about the numeric values and how everything works. I couldn't do all that here. I just wanted to quickly go over the first 12 games for the Dodgers. But um, the next video will be at or around the 20 game mark because I would like to do 10 games, 20 games, but I'll be doing the videos whenever the Dodgers are don't have a game or something like that. So I'll be doing that. I'll be doing it that way. And I'll also be including the actual at bats so that we can see it. If I tell you, okay, over these 10 games, this was the worst plate appearance or the best plate appearance. And I'll be doing some individual player analysis as well. So I'll probably do a whole video on Shohei Ohtani or on Freddie Freeman or something like that as well, and displaying the videos with that. So again, this is a new system. I don't know. We'll see if fans or viewers find any value in this system. Like I said, I'll be leaving the website here below so that you can go to the website and look at the real-time updates. Yeah, so I'll be posting those documents that I just shared with you on that page so that you can keep track of these scores on real time on that page. And then yeah, we'll see if a different way to see the game, a different way to evaluate players, and see how it goes, see how the Dodgers do this season. So if you made it this far in this video, thank you so much for watching. There's a lot more coming with Chessboard Baseball, and if you're excited about it, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you, and I'll see you again soon.